downtown Bismarck. The National Cattlemen's Association. Your host of the Legislature Today is Dale Wetzel, managing editor of Great Plains News and the Great Plains Examiner. If you have questions or comments or to watch the show, go to GreatPlainsNews.com. GreatPlainsNews.com. The Legislature Today is brought to you by the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties.
Yes, I have.
The Credit Union Association of the Dakotas. The University of Mary. The North Dakota Corn, Soybean and Grain Growers Association. And the North Dakota Ethanol Council. The Northwest Landowners Association. Touchstone Energy Cooperative, North Dakota Rural Electric Cooperatives Association, and members Minnesota Power and Great River Energy. The North Dakota chapter of Concerned Women for America. The Expressway Inn and Suites, where a good night's rest costs less. And the Peacock Alley. It's time to get started. Another hour of the Legislature Today is on the air.
This is Dale Wetzel. This is the Legislature Today radio program. We're coming to you from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck, North Dakota. This is the last week of our show because this is the last week of the North Dakota Legislature, Lord willing, and the Constitution willing too, because the North Dakota Constitution limits the legislature to 80 days of meetings every 2 years, and tomorrow we are at day 77 and Friday is day 80. So the legislature has got to get done this week, or they're going to have to ask the governor to call a special session or do something drastic so that they can finish up their work. And the governor, I'm sure, would be reluctant to call a special session because a special session is open-ended, and the legislature could spend the next 6 months hashing over these issues. Not that I think that this is going to happen. I do think we'll get done in 80 days, but it might take all 80. This hour of the Legislature Today is sponsored by the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties. We're very grateful for their sponsorship and that of our other sponsors, because if they did not step up to support the show, there wouldn't be one. And I think that this show has provided a valuable conduit of information about the legislature during this session. This evening, and at least initially, we're going to have Mr. Dan Brose, who's the president of the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties. He's also the city engineer for the city of Bowman. Listeners to the program will remember that he's been on before, but this time he's not here in person. He's on by phone, but since I've met him, I know what he looks like, and the image of him is in my head, so this will be great. And we also have with us Mr. Brady Pelton, the deputy director of the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties. And we also have Kristen Hedger, who is a businesswoman in southwestern North Dakota. She's from Killdeer originally. She's the vice president of Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing, which makes circuit boards and harnesses for aerospace equipment, such as airplanes and helicopters and cool stuff. And they have plants in a number of locations. They employ, I think, more than 300 people. And we'll be talking to her about her reaction to these ideas. First of all, Mr. Brose, the legislature has been playing catch with one of your big bills, and that is House Bill 1358. And what this bill does, essentially, is it provides money for North Dakota cities and local governments to alleviate the impact of oil development. And I want to know what your opinion is of how things have been going so far.
Thank you, Dale, for having me on again. Well, things are going. It's like the legislature always works. Things go really good the first half, and then the second half starts, and it gets a little tighter. They realize how much money they spent in the first half, so they start looking for a few cuts here and there, and some of those kind of things happen, and then they do that, and then we all start working at it again, and hopefully when we get to some amendments and some conference committee, we kind of get something that we need, and that's kind of the way this is. And so there are some times when we hear some rumors and or some thoughts, or an amendment gets put in, and then I don't think it's going very well, and then pretty soon something changes, and the next hour or the next day is not so bad. So it's kind of just the way the legislature works. And
it's kind of like watching a close sporting event where it's whipsawing back and forth, and you're rooting for one team, isn't it?
That's about right. Yes, it's a good analogy for that. So one just has to have patience and not get too upset and not get too happy, because it's probably going to be in the middle someplace. So
how do you think?
Dale, by and large, it's gone pretty well. I think the legislature is they've listened. We've done it. We've had some very good hearings. We did a lot of work ahead of time to try to educate them. And I think they're getting a grasp of what's out there. There's a lot of things that to develop this oil field and to get all the infrastructure and the people and everything that needs to be here to make all that work. There's a lot of parts to the engine and it's not only roads and it's not only sewer and water. There's things like health. There's things like EMS services and the fire departments, and there's just a myriad of issues that we have to deal with. And I think they're working hard to get information and try to get their hands around it and try to address as best they can most of those issues.
So where do you think that this is going to shake out, sir? I mean, the legislature needs to get this bill done because there are a number of other pieces of legislation that depend upon it. I mean, it's a big piece in the jigsaw puzzle that's being put together. And what do you think? How do you think this is going to shake out?
Well, the conference, I think they're pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised by tomorrow afternoon they'll about have it ready to be done. I think they've kind of settled on most items. Would we like to change some? Yes. May not get changed. I think the overall number isn't too bad. But they put money in a different bucket than we would rather have it in. They put it in this bucket, and we'd rather have it in that bucket. And we're going to have to work on some things, and not. I don't know if we can work on them anymore, but we'll work with them. Whatever they do, we'll work with that, and then they got another 80 days and 2 years, and we'll fix what we need to fix then if we have to. So, we'll do with what we can. Like I said, I think most of it's in pretty good shape. One entity might get better than others. Some of these bills are, like you said, kind of tied together. One of the big issues we have, issue is not the right way. Concerns or understanding is how do we handle schools? The school funding is a big issue in 13-19, and so how do we do it equitable and whatever, and so how do they meet everybody's needs in the state in an equal manner, and also address the issues we have, the extra issues we might have out here in western North Dakota, and trying to work that out. And we seem to have one way we'd like to do it, and they seem to might have a little different way to doing it, and we're going to have to see once how that one rolls out. That's probably the biggest concern we have is school funding and how do the impacts get handled. And it's more than just a new building. If we get too many students, you need a new building. But we need desks and books and teachers and those kind of things. So
yes, sir. If you could just summarize for us, what does the bill do presently, and what would you like it to do? In what ways would you change it to make it optimal?
If I could do it, they're putting a little more money into the energy impact fund that needs to fund the whatever it is through grant process. When we get the money out of the gross production tax in a formula, a certain percentage goes to counties, schools, cities, and townships. They're taking some money and going to give it to the hub cities, which is Williston, Dickinson, and Minot. If I would prefer not to have it done that way, but at the end they also put more money into the energy impact, so the schools and cities and the other cities and the counties and townships can go into after that money. I guess we'd rather have it in a formula that we can plan with. That was one of the things we've been trying to get across to them, is if you give it to us in grants, it's okay for the year that you get it, but you don't know what to do about, are you going to get that grant next year? If it's in a formula and we kind of got an idea what the production's going on in your county, you kind of have a pretty good idea what you're going to have for revenue when you go to budget the next year. So, those are the kind of things we'd rather do. We'd rather have it in the formula rather than in grants, but just so we get the money.
Is it, for want of a better term, sir, is it clumsier to get it in a grant because you don't know, first of all, you don't know whether you're going to get the grant money, and secondly, you have to go asking for it, whereas if it's part of a money distribution formula, such as you mentioned, you can budget for it. Is that the logic here?
That's the logic, yes, it is. when the counties and schools and cities and everybody's putting their budget together in August and September, you're going to have to say, well, will we get a grant for it next year? Where if it's in a formula, you can say, well, we think the production's going like this. We could get this much. You maybe be a little bit conservative on your estimate, but you can plug that revenue number in there, and then you can go ahead and plan for it. Where if you get a grant, you gotta hope you get a grant, and then the number one and number two. The second thing is, what do you do if you have a project that costs X, and you got this much local money, and you're expecting or hoping to get this much grant money, and they don't give it? Now, what do you have enough to do the project? You have to cut the project back, whatever. Those are the kind of things that makes it tougher to do when you don't have a, that, I don't know about a guaranteed to be the right word, but a anticipated revenue.
I mean, your organization has a number of diverse interests, and are they hanging together fairly well with this bill? Because I imagine, frankly, do you have a situation where some elements of your coalition might like parts of the bill and others don't, and you have to kind of reconcile those interests?
We do to a little bit, but we're pretty good shape yet. We kind of went in with a plan that to keep everybody together, and like I said, we've the counties and the cities fight for the schools, and the schools fight for the counties, and and we kind of understand it, and I think we're in pretty good shape. We like I said before, maybe the counties and cities will do a little better. Schools, maybe not. Maybe the new bill, when they get done, and all the schools start getting their money, or what they're going to get next year for funding, maybe that'll be fine after July 1st, and everybody kind of gets through the bill, and and everybody knows where the funding's at. But we're a little concerned at this point in time. So, hopefully, maybe their impact fund will help them out, and maybe everybody will understand that, and we can get it leveled out that way, and work on it the next session to see what it takes to make sure everybody's gets what they need to be able to do the students, and we'll work on that.
We have her with. Thank you, sir. We have here with us Kristen Hedger. She is the Vice President for Business Development at Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing in North Dakota, in Dickinson. They have manufacturing locations in several cities. And Ms. Hedger, how important is it for the roads in North Dakota, in southwestern North Dakota in particular, to be in good shape for your employees and your business in general?
Well, it's mission critical. It's very important. Just for safety, many of our employees live in outlying areas. We've got 4 factories in Killdeer, Dickinson, Hettinger, and Regent. And oftentimes folks are traveling, long miles, and they're having to spend time on Highway 22. That's there's a lot of traffic there. It's a dynamic and bustling region. So for safety, it's a concern. And then also just for efficiencies, it's critical that we are able to keep up with the very aggressive aerospace environment. And so I think it's kind of fun in North Dakota to be able to think not just of the growing dynamics of petroleum, but also the other industries that are growing.
Tell us a bit about Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing. What does it manufacture?
So we make parts that are labor-intensive subassemblies, electronics, that go on airplanes that you would fly just to go see your friends around the country, the 737, the 777. And we also make parts for defense applications, such as the Black Hawk helicopter, the F-15, the C-5. So we're committed to excellence in manufacturing, but we're pretty much just a big family at heart. My grandfather started the company in 1987 to provide job opportunities, and we've remained committed to our employees. We just see ourselves as a team.
How big is your big family?
Around just under 350 people.
And how difficult is it to keep your labor force in a competitive labor environment like southwestern North Dakota?
I think we're in the same group with just about any employer in the area. We have had some of our mostly younger men find it desirable to leave to go to petroleum type work, but for the most part, overwhelmingly, we've had not a lot of struggle because people like our work environment. We provide good benefits, and it's a great quality of life. So yeah, there's opportunities out there in the oil patch, but certainly we've had pretty good commitment. So we've had a good time.
Mr. Brose, how important is it for your association's efforts for, to get support from the business community in southwestern North Dakota and just folks in general who essentially share your goals and want to see you succeed?
Well, it's very important. It can't. We need everything. We need Killdeer manufacturing, and we need all the the manufacturing that goes on with it. This is we don't want to be one dimensional out here. The petroleum is a big thing and it's a good thing, but we need everybody. We need a diversified economy. If the oil slows down, we don't want everything just to go away. I mean, it would be a big impact. So, and that's one of the things we're working toward, is to hopefully we get the housing and some of those kind of things put together. So that yes, if one of the wage earners in the house is working in the oil field, maybe the other wage earner can work in the per Killdeer manufacturing or whatever other place that there is, or retail or whatever we need in this area. And those are the kind of things that we're way short on, and that won't get fixed until we get the proper infrastructure, especially in cities, in our communities, so that we can have that sort of thing come back to normal and have enough for the workforce to cover everything, not only just the petroleum industry. We need it for all other businesses, whether it's retail or the services or retail or, like we said, manufacturing. Manufacturing was here before. So is agriculture. We can't chase the agriculture away. We need to make sure that works also, and they need to be able to drive up and down the road. They need housing, and they need employees. So,
Mr. Brose, to what extent, if any, does House Bill 1358 deal with housing issues? Help to increase the housing stock in western North Dakota, or encourage the construction of housing?
1358 isn't anything that'll work directly with housing. I mean, there isn't any specific component, but what 1358 will do is be able to get many of our communities a little more money through the gross production, plus whatever we could get through, direct grants to help with sewer and water towers and wastewater facilities, and the main infrastructure that gets put in. So if a developer comes to the area, yes, they probably got to put all their inside their development, but at least to get the water and sewer to the development, or a road to the development, street to the development, we could get that in there, and it allows the cities, if we get the gross production tax increase, where the cities should be okay, not okay, but better, where they can plan and maybe even bond for those improvements, and thus they'll have a revenue stream that the bonding companies will be comfortable with to be able to use that money to pay off those bonds. And so it's not a direct housing one, but the first thing we need to build a house is a lot to build it on, and that lot needs water and sewer and streets. So this bill will go a long ways to helping that be accomplished.
Ms. Hedger, I understand that Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing is involved in its own housing project because of the shortage of housing.
Indeed, yes. That's something that we've moved forward with, and we've benefited from some of these state programs, and we're looking forward to putting together. We've got a 25-unit apartment complex that will be located right next to Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing and very close to our rodeo arena. So July the 4th will be a lot of fun for those tenants as well. But that's something that we've seen as really critical. I mean, as we hire, the biggest challenge is not so much a lack of interest. It's just where do we live? Is the common question. And so we've really benefited from some of these initiatives to help empower small businesses to provide housing.
Mr. Pelton, there is legislation in the legislature that you've been following that deals with housing subsidies and encouragement of housing, and I was wondering to what extent the association is following this legislation or trying to encourage its development.
Well, Dale, I'm glad you brought that up. As a matter of fact, there are two essential bills that deal with the housing crisis that has come up throughout the state and in particularly western North Dakota. House Bill 1029 deals with the Housing Incentive Fund, and that coupled with the Industrial Commission's budget of, that bill is Senate Bill 2014. Those two bills have been combined, more or less. They have parts in them that add up to around $40 million. Of course, that's tentative, pending their approval by both houses of the legislature, but we're looking at around $40 million for housing projects. One particular part that was added into or is pending also for 1029 is a section dealing with essential government employees. And as you know, many of our school districts and cities and counties have taken it upon themselves to provide housing for their employees, because simply there's a lack of housing in their communities. So the idea behind that language in 1029 that's pending is to essentially take public entities out of the housing business and allow for private industry to take over that production of housing for them.
Mr. Brose, I know it's early yet. I mean, I know it's kind of odd to use the term early in the 77th day of the session, but how would you assess your success in the legislature based upon what you know now?
Oh, I think we've accomplished most of the things that we wanted to accomplish. We've got a funding. I think we'll get the gross production tax increased and the distribution changed a little bit. And by and large, we're in pretty good shape. We didn't get all of it, but we're going to have quite a bit of what we wanted to get changed. So I think we'll be okay.
Do you think that this might be a bit odd to ask, but what do you think is going to happen next time? Do you think that this might be the peak of your power in terms of being able to get some aid out of the legislature, or do you see this as a continuing commitment from the legislature to support Western North Dakota and its ameliorate the oil impacts?
Oh, I think we're a long ways from where we need to be. To get everything put in that needs to be put in, we're going to have to come back, and they're going to have to keep funding or increase funding, whichever it may be. It always changes, and so we've gone from the expiration or the tying up the leases. Now we're starting to get in where they're putting all these pads, these multi-well pads, and that'll evolve over the next 18 months. And while that's doing it, I just know something's going to change that we thought would work this time is going to be completely different next time. In 18 months from now, it'll be different. It has the last 3 sessions. I don't know why it wouldn't be any different coming up for the one in 2 years from now.
We've been speaking to Mr. Dan Brose, who's the president of the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties. He's the city engineer in Bowman, North Dakota. We've also been speaking to Mr. Brady Pelton, who's the assistant director of the association, and Kristen Hedger, who is the vice president for business development at Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing.